Kofi was born in a big city, where life moved fast, and everyone was always busy. His father, a well-known engineer, designed impressive buildings, while his mother was a celebrated fashion designer. They were successful, hardworking, and always on the move, leaving little time for their only son. Though Kofi had everything he needed, clothes, food, and the latest gadgets, he often felt alone. His parents were always preoccupied with work, attending meetings, fashion shows, or rushing to meet deadlines. Whenever he tried to talk to them, they barely listened, offering quick responses before returning to their busy schedules. Kofi's world was one of luxury but also of isolation. He lived in a tall apartment building with sleek glass windows that overlooked the city's endless traffic. The streets were alive with honking cars, neon signs flashing advertisements, and pedestrians weaving through the sidewalks, all too engrossed in their own lives. Even at home, silence greeted him. His father spent most of his nights reviewing architectural plans, while his mother was often away at fashion shows, managing her growing brand. At school, Kofi saw classmates being picked up by their parents, chatting excitedly about their day. But for him, it was always the family driver waiting in a sleek black car. The man was kind, but he was not a replacement for the warmth of a parent's embrace or an interested ear eager to hear about his triumphs and struggles. He longed for the simple joy of sharing dinner with his parents or having them ask how his day went, not just as a passing question, but as something they genuinely wanted to know. So, Kofi found companionship elsewhere. The apartment complex was filled with people from all walks of life: shopkeepers, taxi drivers, elderly retirees, and struggling artists. Unlike his parents, they noticed him. They greeted him warmly when he walked by and asked about his school and interests. Among them, he found a kind of extended family, a patchwork of individuals who would shape his life in ways his own parents never had. One afternoon, after another silent ride home from school, Kofi wandered to the small bookstore at the corner of his street. It was there that he met Nana Efia, an elderly woman with grey-streaked hair wrapped in a vibrant headscarf. She sat behind the counter, surrounded by towering bookshelves packed with knowledge and adventure. The moment he stepped inside, the scent of aged paper and ink filled his senses, offering a comfort he didn't know he needed. "Ah, Kofi," Nana Efia greeted, her wise eyes twinkling. "Lost in the city again?" He hesitated before nodding. "I guess so." She smiled knowingly and reached for a book. "A city speaks in different voices, my dear. But if you read, you will understand its heartbeat. Come, let's find you a story." And with that, Kofi's journey of learning from the city truly began. As the days passed, Kofi found himself drawn more and more to the people in his apartment complex. His loneliness began to fade as he found solace in their company. Each person had their own lessons to teach him, and in their different ways, they filled the gaps left by his absent parents. Nana Efia introduced Kofi to the magic of books. "A city speaks in different voices," she would say. "But if you read, you will understand its heartbeat." She taught him about history, culture, and the power of knowledge. Every afternoon, he would sit by the small bookstore, listening as she read passages from different books. She would pause and ask him what he thought, encouraging him to question and analyze everything he read. Under her guidance, Kofi developed a deep love for reading and storytelling, often finding meaning in the words that mirrored his own emotions and struggles. Kojo, the taxi driver, was another mentor in Kofi's life. Every morning, as he prepared for school, he would see Kojo polishing his taxi, ready for another long day of navigating the city's bustling streets. One afternoon, Kojo offered Kofi a ride around the city. As they drove, he pointed out different landmarks and shared stories about the people who lived there. "Patience and awareness," he often said, "are what keep you alive in this fast-moving world." From him, Kofi learned how to observe people, the wealthy, the struggling, the hopeful, and the lost. Kojo taught him that every person in the city had a story, and that understanding those stories was the key to understanding life itself. Then there was Baba Jomo, the street performer who mesmerized crowds with his tales and music. Kofi would often watch him from the sidelines as he played his kora, a traditional African harp, weaving powerful stories into his melodies. Baba Jomo noticed his interest and began inviting Kofi closer, teaching him how to use rhythm and voice to bring stories to life. A story, he would declare, is the bridge between what is and what can be. With each lesson, Kofi gained confidence, learning how to express himself in ways he had never imagined before. But not every influence in Kofi's life was positive. As he spent more time outside, he met a group of older boys who roamed the city streets. They introduced him to the thrill of rebellion, sneaking into concerts without tickets, skipping school, and hanging out in dimly lit alleys where trouble brewed. At first, Kofi enjoyed the excitement, feeling a sense of freedom he had never known. But soon, he realized that danger lurked in the choices he made. One night, after a particularly reckless adventure, Kofi found himself in a difficult situation. The older boys had dared him to steal from a local vendor, and though his heart pounded in fear, he hesitated. As he stood frozen, torn between right and wrong, a strong hand gripped his shoulder. It was Kojo. "This is not the path for you, Kofi," he said firmly. "A single wrong step in this city can change your entire future. Choose wisely." Shaken, Kofi followed him back to his taxi, his heart heavy with the weight of his near mistake. That night, he sat in Nana Efia's bookstore, listening to her read about young men who had lost their way, and he knew he had to be careful. The city had given him both mentors and temptations, but only he could decide which path to follow. From that moment on, Kofi became more aware of the choices he made. He distanced himself from the negative influences and embraced the lessons of those who truly cared for him. And so, he continued learning from the people who had become his family in the absence of his own, growing wiser with each passing day.